What's going on, guys? Gamers Goon here today with your mock draft before the conclusion of the combine. And as more information about the combine and everything that comes out during the combine comes out, we will do these frequently. And we're going to revamp everything that I'm going to say here during this episode of my mock draft 1.0. I don't even know if this is 1.0. This is the one that I'm doing right before the combine. I've done a lot of mock drafts. I don't remember if I recorded any specifically and uploaded them, but we have in front of us the 32 teams in the NFL. Some of these teams do not pick in the first round. Some of these teams I have moving around in the first round, and I'm doing this after day one of the combine. And the big news, or at least the thing that I'm going to be attributing during all of this is that Jalen Carter had a warrant out for his arrest yesterday morning. He was charged with two misdemeanors in the incident that ended up costing two Georgia players and a staff member their lives in a racing incident, which is what the cops believe it was. But Jalen Carter was back in Indianapolis today, and he was able to have conversations with GMs, all that. Everybody that needed to talk to Jalen Carter, I assume, talked to Jalen Carter because he was back. He did not participate in the combine, but he was there to answer questions for people, and he does say that he expects to be fully exonerated from all charges. So we will see what happens with Jalen Carter, but that definitely throws a wrinkle into the first round. So we're going to enter the draft room, and as I said, this is going to be probably the most insane mock draft that you're going to see. I don't really have much of a plan. I have somewhat of a plan for this, but this is going to be the premise of this. I don't believe the Bears end up getting this 12th pick, so we're not going to touch the 12th pick. And for the sake of this video, I'm not going to throw in too much, but the Texans, they were talking about it during the combine. They were talking about it the entirety of the. Oh, we got to press start draft. We were talking about it during the combine. We were talking about it. They've been talking about it for ever since the Bears got the first pick that the Texans might still want to trade up and get Bryce Young. And they fumbled their opportunity to get Bryce Young. We're going to force this trade, but I think something like this pick right here, 33, and a future first. They have two next year, so it could be one of those picks, or maybe a second and a third and a second, or something of that nature. I don't think the Bears, to move down one spot, are going to refuse to give the Texans the pick unless they throw multiple first at them. I don't think the Bears are necessarily thinking that the Texans are trading up to take the guy that's on top of their board because the Bears don't need a quarterback. I think the Bears assume that quarterback is the need here for the Texans at 1, and they're okay doing this trade. And I'm forcing the trade, but like I said, that's not going to be the straight up trade. But I have the Texans trading up, and this is where it's going to get interesting for all of you people watching this. You're assuming you trade up for Bryce Young. You trade up for CJ Stroud. You trade up for your pick and quarterback. I actually have them trading up so that they can jump the team that they're afraid is going to take their top prospect and Will Anderson. Will Anderson remains at 1, where I've had him as my number 1 prospect. It's been him, Jalen Carter, Bryce Young in that order of the top 3. And I'm really starting to grow on Tyree Wilson. But Will Anderson, I think, is the best player in this draft. I've been saying it a long time. I want him to be in Chicago, but I'm not sure that I'm not sure that he is going to end up in Chicago, and I'm not sure if we stick at 1 that we're taking Will Anderson, because it could be Jalen Carter still. I'm not sure, but Will Anderson at number 1, I have him staying. I have everything that's been said about the Texans going quarterback. I've talked to my friend Cam, and he's a Texans fan, and he said they might be looking at Jimmy G. They might be looking at some other quarterbacks like a Derek Carr. They might be in the play for maybe like a Carson Wentz. Some of these quarterbacks that got released, and they would be bridge quarterbacks, and that leaves them a chance later down in the first round or the second round to take a project quarterback, whoever they see fit. But they take best player available and take Will Anderson here at 1. That leaves the Bears, and I think the Bears, they begin to panic. The Bears are a team that I think won't touch Jalen Carter. The Bears, at least, we haven't seen it much yet in Ryan Poles' managing career. Um, but historically, the Bears like to stay away from people with off the field issues. The Bears are they really just don't mesh well. They try to get them out of Chicago, and I don't think Jalen Carter is going to be the guy for Chicago, especially since there were character concerns prior to the arrest warrants coming out, and now there is arrest warrants for Jalen Carter. He had $4,000 bail. Um, so I think Jalen Carter, he could have been in this top two discussion, and he probably still will be in the discussion, but I don't think he will eventually end up in the top two. And instead, I have the Bears selecting their next best defensive player. They get a little concerned that Will Anderson's off the board, so they take Tyree Wilson a little bit early at 2, and they reach just a little bit. I still love Tyree Wilson. I think he's a great fit in Chicago. Very long, lengthy edge rusher. He did not participate in the combine. He's coming off injury. He had a fracture, so he did not participate in the combine. But Tyree Wilson is a lengthy guy that can get to a quarterback. He is everything that you would expect out of what they wanted last year in Trayvon Walker, but he has the production to back it up. He had 7 sacks until he got hurt late in the season last season. So Tyree Wilson at number 2 to the Bears, long, lengthy kid. I kind of think he's like a Carlos Dunlap. He's 6'6", just like Carlos Dunlap. You're getting a guy that could end up being a multiple-time Pro Bowler, but you're also getting a guy that could end up just being a okay pass rusher. I don't think that he's going to come in and be a bust, but I don't think he's necessarily. I think he has a moderate floor, but a very, very high ceiling. I think that's what you take if you're Chicago here. You have a lot of needs if you're Chicago, and you're not necessarily playing to compete this season. You might compete this season depending on what free agency does and if Justin Fields continues to develop or whatnot. But I think that you begin to go after high potential guys and really focus on the future of the Bears. You don't need to go get Jalen Carter here if you're not comfortable with his character concerns. You don't need to go get somebody way out of line that just fills the need. You don't need to go take like a Lucas Van Ness here. You don't need to go take like a Kalijah Cansey here. You don't. I think that it's a deep enough draft that even if Tyree Wilson isn't as elite as we think he could be, you could still get a good defensive player in the second round. You still get guys in positions of need that can start, and that's definitely reassuring if you're a Bears fan like myself. But here we go. The Cardinals are on the clock. I don't think the Cardinals select here. Jalen Carter obviously is in play for every single one of these teams, depending on how much of a character concern we believe this to be. But like I said, I'm making this one of the crazy mock drafts that you'll never predict, really. And we're trading 9 for 3. Obviously, there's going to be more to that than that, but that's the premise of it. They swap first-round picks, and the Panthers trade up to take their selection of quarterback, which, if you're trading up, you would think it's for Bryce Young, but the Panthers aren't trading up for Bryce Young. They're trading up to leave 0 doubts on the board, and they take their quarterback in Will Levis. I think Will Levis is the quarterback on the top of their boards. Him and the Panthers have been linked a long time. I don't know why, but it just seems like a better fit for them than Bryce Young. Will Levis kind of fits the mold of what I typically think to be a Panthers quarterback. A big guy, bulky, that has big potential, but not necessarily the greatest of floors. And that's the big risk you're taking with him. He could be what he was last season, which was not very good, or he could be what he was 2 years ago, where he looked like he was very, very good. And they have him being talked. They're talking about him being like the next Josh Allen. I don't see it, but Will Levis, I think, probably will find his way to being a Panther, regardless of whether or not it's at 3 or not. I think the Panthers are definitely in play to trade up, and like I said, we're doing a crazy mock draft, so that's what we have happening. The Colts, they are thrilled. They wanted to trade up to 1 to get Bryce Young. The Bears accepted the trade to the Texans, and they still end up with Bryce Young once they get to 4. The Colts wanted him at 1. They took him at 4. They are thrilled that they didn't have to move anything whatsoever. And then you got a team like the Seahawks, who you're looking here, and a team like the Raiders, who just lost Derek Carr, a team like the Falcons, who might not be sold on Desmond Ridder or bringing back Marcus Mariota. Those two teams could still be wanting a quarterback, and the talk about the Lions drafting a quarterback has significantly died since they've said they're committing to Jared Goff. But I think if you are one of these two teams, you got to eliminate all doubt, any possibility whatsoever that this is C.J. Stroud to develop. And I think a team like the Raiders will jump a team like the Lions, who we can't guarantee they won't take a quarterback. We have a good feeling they won't, but we can't guarantee it. Because if their quarterback's on the board, maybe they do. I think the Raiders, once again, premise of the deal, 5 for 7. There's going to be more to it. We're just forcing the trade for the video. But we have the Raiders trade up, and they get their quarterback, C.J. Stroud. So we see a string of 3 QBs go, one after another, and now the Lions are on the clock. I still think the Lions are going defensive back here. Jalen Carter becomes an interesting guy for them. Jalen Carter and Aiden Hutchinson could be fun. You look at a guy like Devon Witherspoon. You look at a guy like Christian Gonzalez. You even look at a guy like Joey Porter. You look at a guy, a little bit of a reach here, Deonte Banks. But I think, honestly, these two guys right here, Devon Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez, depending on how they test tomorrow, are number 1 and number 2 in this class. Joey Porter did say he's number 1 in this class, but I don't necessarily agree. It's a little bit too early for like a linebacker. This could be maybe. They don't really have any receivers that could be in this spot. So I think basically here, their only options here are Jalen Carter or one of these two. And I think a team like the Lions, they are probably more inclined to go with a guarantee of guys that are going to be on the field. I think that's going to be Devon Witherspoon here instead of Christian Gonzalez. So I got him at 6. And we got the Seahawks here at 7. And now the Seahawks, they are thrilled because they get Jalen Carter at 7. They were able to trade down, pick up some extra draft capital, and still get Jalen Carter. To a team like the Seahawks, a team that has history drafting guys that have off the field issues, and they've been able to bring them back to being good players. I do think that's a good fit there, and it is a big need for them. They do need defensive linemen there. And then you look at a team here in the Falcons. They probably would be interested in like a C.J. Stroud if he's here. They probably would be interested in a Will Levis. They probably would be interested in a lot of different things. But I don't think they're going to be interested in Anthony Richardson. I don't. Anthony Richardson is, once again, one of these mobile quarterbacks. I kind of feel like you would want to break the mold of what you have on your roster in Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota if they decide to bring Mariota back. I think you would want to break that mold a little bit. And Anthony Richardson is a guy that we think can be good at the next level, but you're putting a lot into his development. And I don't know if a team that has 2 quarterbacks that are not necessarily, I don't know. They just don't feel like quarterbacks that would be great mentors for Anthony Richardson, especially since they got Desmond Ridder last year. Ridder's not going to be wanting Richardson to start over him. But I don't think receivers in play here, but I do think there is an edge rusher out of Iowa, and they actually do have him higher now that the thing's updated. Nolan Smith had a great pro day today. I don't think he's going to escape the first round. Lucas Van Ness, this kid, He was a late enrollee in the draft, but he is a guy that I have seen shoot up draft boards. And for a long time, I had this guy, or pick 8, being a combination of Miles Murphy um, and Tyree Wilson. But I don't know. This kid also had a good combine. But Lucas Van Ness, I think, is probably the pick here. I've started to sour a little bit more on Miles Murphy, but it's not anything really he did. It's just I like other players better than him now. And the Cardinals are jumping at joy. I know it says they need a guard or a center, but their entire offensive line is not good. Paris Johnson, offensive lineman number 1 in this class, in my opinion, sitting there at 9. They traded down. They still get Paris Johnson. They could have gone maybe like a Will Anderson or a Tyree if they were available there at 3, maybe a Jalen Carter, but they still get a guy that's near the top of their board and probably the top of their positional needs in Paris Johnson. Then you get to the Eagles, and the Eagles are a team that I know it doesn't say they need a defensive back, but I think they need a defensive back, and I think Christian Gonzalez fills that role for them perfectly. Great positional value there, and great pick there at 10 for a team that I think could use help in their secondary. The Titans, they're kicking themselves because Paris Johnson, I believe, should be on the top of their board, but they do have their option here now. I'm looking at this and I see three more first round picks. I don't think Antoine Harrison is a first round pick in my opinion. I think he's more of an early second round. I do think DeJuan Jones will end up being a first round pick, Broderick Jones and Peter Skoronski. When you look at the Titans, I think Paris Johnson's probably their top prospect, but a guy like Broderick Jones could be a better fit than a guy like Peter Skoronski, at least the way I'm thinking of it, because I kind of feel like Broderick Jones gives you a little bit more upside. Peter Skoronski's a guy that you're going to get in there and you're going to give day one. He's the most NFL ready one out of them all. But I don't necessarily think that's where the Titans are. The Titans are still potentially developing Malik Willis. And that's going to be something that they're going to need in the future is who is somebody that could help in his development. Do you want a guy that is helping you compete now, or a guy that if he reaches his full potential could help you later? And I think Broderick Jones is a little bit better than that, and he's a guy that I expect to be drafted before Peter Skoronski. And then you get to the Texans, and the Texans are sitting here. As I said, they took Will Anderson, best player available. Now they're going for their project QB. Davis Mills, not the best QB option, but Davis Mills can get you by. And this might be where we see Anthony Richardson go. Anthony Richardson joins the Texans as their project QB. High upside if Anthony Richardson can help a lot of his question marks. He's at times a poor decision maker, but he does have that big play potential. He's made big time passes, he's made big time reads, but he's also made boneheaded decisions. And a team like the Texans is a team that probably is not competing regardless of who they go at quarterback. They have time still in their developmental phase. They have time in their rebuild. Anthony Richardson should be the guy there if they don't go quarterback with their first pick in the draft, whether that's number 1, number 2, or wherever they pick. Next, we have the Jets, the Jets, Jets. The Jets, I don't have them ever taking a quarterback. I don't think they're in play, really. But they're kind of kicking themselves, I would assume. I don't think Peter Skoronski's probably their top guy. I think Paris Johnson is everybody's top guy here. But that's a guy that, the Jets were a little bit ahead of schedule this year. They did well. They lost Breece Hall. Peter Skoronski helps them now, so it might be a good pickup for the Jets. It's somebody that they can plug and play and hope can help them compete next season. And I kind of feel dirty about this because Kalijah Kancey can't be here still. This kid just put on one of the best combines of the day, and I still have him as a first-round pick, but we'll see if I end up changing where he's going. 14, I think they probably go receiver here with the Patriots. Quentin Johnson, I think, is receiver 1 and a real close receiver 2 until we see what he tests. Jalen Hyatt, I've seen that Jalen Hyatt can apparently run a 4.26. If he hits sub 4.3, I think Jalen Hyatt is undoubtedly receiver 1. But as you see, graphics or whatever the PFF doesn't necessarily agree with me, but personally, I think Jalen Hyatt is a lock for the first round. It's just a matter of when. But you see a team like the Patriots here. I think a Quentin Johnston is a great fit for them. Maybe a Jalen Hyatt's also a great fit for them. Where guys like Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith-Njigba, they might fit the particular mold that you're used to as a Patriot, but I don't necessarily think they're going to the Patriots. I don't think Jordan Addison really in play. So I got them taking Quentin Johnston. And the Packers here, the Packers are a team I can't have them take Kalijah Kancey. I just can't bring myself to do it. They don't really need a Kalijah Kancey, but he would be a great pickup. A guy like Myles Murphy's definitely in mind here. If you want to go back to the edge rushers, a guy like Nolan Smith, 100% after today is still in play. You look at the receivers even. Guys like Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, even Jalen Hyatt, Zay Flowers are in play, but I don't think, depending on what we hear from Aaron Rodgers, and after drafting Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson had a decent season, I think they're probably more inclined to go defense, and they do need to pick up an edge rusher. I don't think they go tight end. I've seen a lot of people think they're taking Michael Mayer here. I don't agree. I don't think we see a tight end in the first round, at least not this early. I think Nolan Smith finds his way back into the top 20. I think he is a top 20 player, definitely, before his injury. And then there were some concerns about whether or not he was able to come back from his injury. And I think he eliminated all those concerns today. And obviously, I'm saying that, and a lot of these guys haven't done the combine. Like a Joey Porter hasn't done the combine. He might prove to test the best out of the defensive backs. Who knows? But we don't know any of that right now. Then we get to the football team, or they're not the football team anymore. They're the Commanders now. Kind of forgot about that. No linebackers really in play. Trenton Simpson is somebody that is fallen down boards, but I think could still end up being a late first round pick. QB really isn't in play here. And the thing is, I think you have better offensive linemen like a DeJuan Jones or even an Antoine Harrison that are fit. But here's the thing. You look at DeJuan Jones, we're going to pull it up shortly. No guard play. You look at Antoine Harrison, no guard. I think he played a few snaps at guard. No, he's not the one. One of these top O linemen, the left, played a few snaps at guard. Maybe it was Matthew Bergeron. He played like 4 snaps at guard. Yeah, 4 snaps at left guard. But I don't know because I think DeJuan Jones is the best offensive lineman left on the board. O'Cyrus Torrence kind of fits the guard need a little bit more for a team like the Commanders. But I'm gonna say, you know what? The Commanders take their best offensive lineman on the board. O'Cyrus Torrence could be that guy, but I think you draft the best offensive lineman on the board and figure out the whole situation of who you switch to guard, if you switch somebody to guard, whatever, after the fact. You take the best offensive lineman left on the board. A team that I think has a lot of needs, even though they're in the middle of the pack, I think they still need a lot. Then you get to the Steelers. I think the Steelers, everybody has them taking the same guy. I don't see how they don't take the same guy. He's from Pennsylvania. He's near Pittsburgh. They're keeping him home. Joey Porter, bringing him a homecoming. I know they say tackle and linebacker are bigger needs than corner. The corner's still a big need for them. I think even there's a lot of things they could still need. They could still need a court. Do they need who they drafted? Oh, they took Kenny Pickett. Never mind. But they could still use a lot. They definitely could still use a lot. Offensive line's a big one. Linebacker is a big one. Defensive back is a big one. Brian Branch could be in play here. But here's where I think Kalijah Cansey probably goes earlier than this, but I can't have him fall past the Lions. It's a great fit. It's a great fit. They took Devon Witherspoon. They missed out. They didn't draft Jalen Carter. And I don't think you need to draft Jalen Carter if you think you can get Kalijah Cansey, because I think Kalijah Cansey is a phenomenal player. He shot at boards recently. Comparisons to Aaron Donald. You can't let that. You can't be the team that misses out on Kalijah Cansey if you are in the play for defensive interior players, whether it's a defensive tackle, a nose tackle, whatever. I think he's going to go before Brian Breeze. I always pronounce that wrong. I think it's Brisset or something like that, but I don't really care. But I don't have the Buccaneers selecting here. I don't think the Buccaneers really have a set plan. They need quarterback, and I don't think they take Hendon right this second. They need like a tight end. It's maybe a little bit too early still for a tight end. Maybe it's Michael Mayer, who's seen middle of the top 20. Maybe it's a Luke Musgrave, who I think could be a first-round tight end. But I think you need to get a lot if you're on the Buccaneers. I think they have a lot of holes to fill, and I think you start that off by doing this. You trade down to a team that could be looking to jump a Seahawks, could be looking to jump a Chargers, and they could be looking to jump a Ravens. A lot of teams in this spot could go receiver. And no, it doesn't say big need there for the Seahawks, but I think receivers in play. But this is a team right here that they're gonna miss out on a lot of their receiver options, because there's gonna be one receiver guaranteed. I guarantee you, one of these four teams here between the Seahawks, the Chargers, the Ravens, and the Vikings go receiver. I know they also don't say receiver is an option here for the Vikings. Don't be shocked if they go receiver. Receiver's definitely in play if the right guy's there at the pick for the Ravens. Receiver's 100% in play for the Chargers. I think the Giants are definitely in play for that receiver, and I think the Giants are the team that would be the ones calling up. Once again, this isn't the full trade. This is just the premise of the trade being executed, and we got the Giants trading up, and I think the Giants trade up, and they shock the PFF system, but not really anybody else, because I don't really know why PFF has him so low. I think this is where we see Jalen Hyatt go. You want to go get Daniel Jones, who I assume they're going to bring back. They have a few more days to bring him back. You want to go support Daniel Jones? Go get Jalen Hyatt, one of the best receivers in this class, one of the fastest receivers in this class. And this kid's big. This kid, look at him. Is he going to bring up his size? Or am I going to have to... 6'1", and this kid runs like a 6 or like a 4.2, 6, something like that. It's ridiculous. And he had great production last season at Tennessee. Absolutely fantastic player. Jalen Hyatt, one of my favorite players in the entire draft. I think he is a lock for the first round, and I got him going 19 to the Giants. We get to the Seahawks. The Seahawks, I think they're kind of kicking themselves here, because they could have been a team that went after like a Jalen Hyatt. But they do have DK on the roster. They do have Tyler Lockett, who is getting older, but he's still on the roster. Those two guys can hold it down for a little bit. And I think if it all pans out, I think Osiris Torrance probably goes here. They drafted two really good tackles last year in Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross. Now you got to get the interior of the offensive line. You're looking at guards, you're looking at centers. A lot of work to be done in the trenches if you're in Seattle, and Osiris Torrance is a good start for you. Then you get to the Chargers, who are also in play for receiver. I've had them taking receiver. I'm not changing the receiver. I'm not doing any of that. But the three receivers left: Jordan Addison, Jack Smith-Njigba, Zay Flowers. It's any man's guess, really, who anybody of them takes. All three of them are guys that could be interchanged at almost any spot, I believe. I don't think they necessarily have a set order. But a guy that I do really like, I think he's going to be good, and a guy that I think actually fits the Chargers well, I don't think if you're the Chargers, you're looking at Jackson Smith-Njigba. You've seen Keenan Allen and you've seen Mike Williams get hurt. Jackson Smith-Njigba has an injury history. Jordan Addison could be a decent fit here. Keep him in California. Keep him in state. But I think you go out of state and you go Zay Flowers. I really like Zay Flowers. I have a feeling that Zay Flowers is going to go above both Jackson Smith-Njigba and Jordan Addison, but I wouldn't be shocked if that was not the case. Now you get the Ravens. The Ravens now, they are also in need of a receiver. And I think if the Ravens don't get their choice of the three receivers left, maybe they look at an edge. Could this be where we see like a Myles Murphy go? Potentially, we could see Myles Murphy here. We could even see Will McDonald go here. We could see a lot of different things go here. Maybe they're in play for a corner. Maybe they like Deonte Banks. Maybe they like. He's going to be low on here because he's gone significantly down. Also, Keon White, somebody that you got to watch out for because I think he's going to go higher than people expect. Keely Ringo. And you know what? For the sake of shocking everybody that's watching this mock draft, we will do it. We will go Keon White. I think Keon White could play himself into the first round. Keon White is a guy that a lot of people think is one of the best players in the draft, one of the top 30. And while I think maybe Myles Murphy's probably better, we could see Keon White shoot up boards, and I'm gonna have it. Like I said, we're doing one of the craziest mock drafts you'll see. This is not your normal man's mock draft. Then you get to the Vikings. Vikings, they gotta be upset. They missed out on they missed out on both a sliding Jalen Carter, and then also they missed out on where is he? I can't even find him. Where did he go? Where's Kalijah Kancey? Oh, there he is. Kalijah Kancey. You missed out on both of them. Maybe you look at a Brian Brise that had a good combine. Maybe you look at one of the linebackers like a Trenton Simpson who kind of slid down. Maybe you look at the corners. Maybe for Joey Porter's here. Maybe Deonte Banks is the name you want to see here. Maybe Mozzie Smith is the name you want to see here. Maybe you guys look at Cam Smith, who I think is probably going to be vying for a first round. And I think Keely Ringo might still be lingering around that first round. I think Keely Ringo shot down boards rather than up them, but I do think he still could hear his name called. But I'm looking at the Vikings. I don't see how the Vikings can look at Brian Brise and see how they can't take him. They need an interior defensive lineman, and that's what Brian Brise gives you. Maybe corner could be better. Maybe a Deonte Banks or a Cam Smith would work out better for them, but I don't think they do that. And this is where we're going to see a cornerback go off the board because I do believe a team like the Jaguars, no offensive linemen that are of need for them are available. And once again, Cam Smith, Keely Ringo, and Deonte Banks are the three names that I expect to be here that could vie for that first round pick. And Deonte Banks, I believe, is the best of the three, but this also could be Cam Smith. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. Then we get to the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, from what I'm understanding, might not be long-term committed to their running back, who happens to be Leonard Fournette. And a team that's not long-term committed to their running back, and a team that just lost their quarterback, and a team that has a lot of holes to fill, why would you not go the best player available? I know it says he's 27th, but everybody thinks that Bijan Robinson is a top 5 talent. He's just at a poor position. Nobody wants to draft a running back. Bijan Robinson here at 25 is great value. Might not be great positional value, but you're getting one of the best players in the draft with Bijan Robinson, who immediately can be your workhorse running back. It gives you the freedom to let Leonard Fournette go do whatever he wants. It gives you the freedom for whoever you get at quarterback, whether it's a option of Derek Carr or one of those guys that got released, or whether or not it's a new quarterback that you get later on in the draft, whether that's like a Tanner McKee or a Hendon Hooker or whatever. It gives you the flexibility to at least have some development because you got a guy next to them that they can hand the ball off and he's going to go to work. This guy right here, Bijan Robinson, he is Brees Hall, but better. That might not be a great comparison, but he is going to take the league by storm at that running back position, no matter where he is. And I think he is definitely going to be one of the top guys in this draft when it's all said and done. And then we get to the Cowboys. The Cowboys, I think they're definitely in play for a receiver. I think if Brian Brisset is here, they're in play for him. Don't necessarily think they're in play for a linebacker right now. You look at the interior defenders left. I don't think it's a Mozzie Smith. I don't really think it's a Siaki Ika. I think it's a little too early, or Keanu Benton. I think a little bit too early for them. But they do have their pick between Jordan Addison and Jackson Smith-Njigba. Something about me is telling me that they would be more inclined to go Jackson Smith-Njigba because he has the better potential. At least what I would think. He was, before injury, receiver one of this class. I don't know if they necessarily how much stake they're putting into his injuries, but I think CeeDee Lamb and like I said, I didn't plan this out before. I'm gonna say, you know what? Let's go Jordan Addison. Let's go Jordan Addison for the sake of it. And Brian Branch shouldn't be here. I'm just gonna say that right now. Brian Branch shouldn't be here. And it could be one of these teams like a Ravens, or it could even be like a team like the. Well, I don't think the Lions really they have safeties, but a team like the Steelers, or even a team earlier on like maybe like a Cardinals could be in play for Brian Branch. Um, Maybe even the Eagles. But Brian Branch just unfortunately hasn't had a spot in this draft yet, and I don't see how he doesn't make it out of the first round. Brian Branch is too good of a player to be here, and the Bills, they once again get a gimme that you don't let Brian Branch fall here and expect the Bills to pass on him. Bills, everything that they're just adding salt to the wound at this point. They're just getting best player available after best player available, and they're just plugging them in and hoping that they're going to be great for them. And the Bills, they need everything they need because they continue to have really good seasons. They just can't finish it off in the playoffs. The Bengals, a team that could use one of these tackles, and thankfully for them, oh, did I pull? Who did I get? Oh, I did move DeJuan Jones. Um, That's weird. That's how you know I actually had no plan coming into this, because usually DeJuan Jones is still here and I have him going here. But like I said, I don't know if Antoine Harrison's a first round pick. What kind of interior offensive lineman? Steve Avila could end up going there. I doubt it. You look at defensive backs. Best name left, in my opinion, is probably Cam Smith or Keely Ringo. Could this be a team that trades? Could this be a team that trades? I think they could. And I'm gonna do it with a team that's going up for a quarterback. You feel uncomfortable because I do know that the Saints have had discussions with this guy. I think, like I said, there's probably more to this, and you're probably trading a first round or maybe even multiple seconds. I don't know. But we're doing this. No. No. I don't want to trade a player. Yes. You're doing this. Not in love with it, but like I said, this is going to be a crazy mock draft for you guys. But you're trading up for a team that just took their star running back. Now they need to get their quarterback, and their quarterback they're trading up for is QB3 in this draft, but unfortunately his ACL injury has shot him down boards. I think Hendon Hooker is the third best quarterback behind Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, and I would say he's close to CJ Stroud. Hendon Hooker, a great player, unfortunate circumstances. I think he doesn't find I don't see how there's a world where he doesn't make it into the first round. He is too good of a player, regardless of injury, to let slide. You don't want to be the team that let Hendon Hooker get past you if you're in one of the quarterback situations. And a team like the Buccaneers, like I said, they're going into a rebuild. They have time. They have time to wait for Hendon Hooker. Even if Hendon Hooker is available next year, they can lower the stress level on him because they have Bijan Robinson next to him. Perfect situation there for the Buccaneers who trade up. They jump a team like the Saints, who has had discussions with Hendon Hooker. I have yet to hear whether or not the Buccaneers have had discussions with Hendon Hooker, but I do know the Saints have. And if you're a team like the Buccaneers that can potentially go for a quarterback, and if you think Hendon Hooker is that much better than Tanner McKee, I think you would jump a team like the Saints here. Now you get a team like the Saints who now they're fumbling because I think Hendon Hooker was definitely in play here. I don't necessarily think Tanner McKee is going to find his way into the first round. It could end up being Tanner McKee, and I could end up biting my words. But maybe they look at a defensive back. Maybe they're looking at the remaining Keely Ringo and Cam Smith and thinking maybe one of those guys are best player for them. But they need an interior defensive lineman. But I don't know, man. I really don't know. How long did they bring back Marcus Davenport? How long did they bring back Marcus Davenport? Marcus Davenport contract. He's up until 2026 now, which is interesting. I still think you can't let a guy like Myles Murphy slide out of the first round, and like I said, I'm not in love with this pick, but I don't see Myles Murphy sliding out of the first round. This could be a best pick scenario for a team like the Saints. I don't think Tanner McKee's going to make it into the first round, so they go best player available, who's Myles Murphy. The Eagles, they got to be smiling. They got to be smiling. They need receivers to go next to A.J. Brown, and they need a third receiver on that roster. Christian Gonzalez, they got a big positional need there, and then they got to be smiling ear to ear because while they did miss out on a lot of the receivers, they got Jackson Smith-Njigba, who could potentially be the best of them all as long as he's healthy. That has been the big concern with Jackson Smith-Njigba is his health. And I think he's definitely a first-round pick, but I don't necessarily know for sure what's going to happen with Jackson Smith-Njigba. And you want to see something crazy. Now, there's a lot of things that the Chiefs could do, but they have luxury. Could they go in Andre Carter, very lengthy defender out of Army, who has came on late? Could they go maybe a little bit more traditional with Amazi Smith? Maybe could they go Will McDonald, who participated in the Combine sick? Maybe the brother of Azeez Ojulari. But you want to see something crazy? And something that I don't think people have talked about and won't talk about, and I don't really think is all that realistic, but I'm going to do it for the sake of this video. Because I don't think it's all that out of the realm of possibility, but I do think that it's a little bit crazy. I think the Chiefs throw you a little bit of a curveball here, and they take a guy on the defensive side that can get to a quarterback, and a guy that had a pretty good combine right here in Notre Dame's Adetomiwa Adebawore. Hard name to pronounce, but if you look at just his production, 6 sacks, 5 sacks, over the course of his career, he's been able to get to the quarterbacks. He's hurried them, and best yet, I don't know if you can see the combine. You can't see the combine here. He had a good combine. A team like the Chiefs would not shock me if they were to take a little bit of a gamble, and that's their gamble. So that's going to cap it off. Like I said, it's going to be one of the craziest mock drafts you've seen. Not traditional, not something that people are used to. Didn't want to give you what you've seen multiple times, what you've seen everybody else do. So let's just recap. Texans trade up. They take Will Anderson. Bears, they get scared and they take Tyree Wilson. The Panthers trade up and they take their quarterback of choice, Will Levis. The Colts are gifted Bryce Young. The Raiders are trading up to get C.J. Stroud before he comes off the board. Devon Witherspoon sticks at 6 and joins teammate from Illinois, Kirby Joseph. The Seahawks, they get Jalen Carter after he slides a little bit due to his warrant. We get the Falcons to take Lucas Van Ness, who has shot up boards recently. We get the Cardinals taking the best offensive lineman off the board with Paris Johnson. We got the Eagles taking Christian Gonzalez to fill their defensive back situation. You got the Titans taking the second best in Broderick Jones out of Georgia. You got the Texans gambling a little bit with their future, going Anthony Richardson. You got the Jets getting a plug-and-play offensive tackle in Peter Skoronski. You get the Patriots taking the first receiver in Quentin Johnston. Then you get the edge rusher that had a great combine, Nolan Smith at 15. DeJuan Jones finds his way into the top 20 with the Commanders. You get Joey Porter staying in town for the Steelers. You get Kalijah Kancey going to the Lions, capping off their good draft with Devon Witherspoon. This guy definitely could skyrocket that from 18, though. He could go top 10. You get Jalen Hyatt, the second receiver off the board, to the Giants. You get the Seahawks taking Osiris Torrance. You got the Chargers taking Zay Flowers to pair alongside Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. You get the Ravens throwing a curveball at us and getting Keon White, edge rusher, out of Georgia Tech. You get the Vikings taking Brian Brisset out of Clemson after he had a pretty good combine. You get another corner taken off the board in Deontay Banks to the Jaguars. You get the first running back off the board and one of the best players in the draft, Bijan Robinson, going to the Buccaneers via trade. The Cowboys, they select their receiver option between Jack Smith-Njigba and Jordan Addison with Jordan Addison. The Bills, they get more luxury to their team by getting best player available in Brian Branch. The Buccaneers trade back into the first round to get Hendon Hooker. They get the Saints here, takes best player available with Miles Murphy. The Eagles, they're smiling because they got Jack Smith-Njigba, who could potentially be one of the best receivers in this class. And we see a curveball to end it in Adetomiwa Adebawore out of Northwestern, going to the Chiefs. So like I said, I wanted to throw you a curveball. Y'all got a curveball. It's time. It's to go into the draft. It's one of the best times of the year, and I'm excited for it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.